London, this is BBC News. More fallout from the Epstein files. Police examine private flights in and out of multiple airports in the UK. UEFA opens an investigation into discriminatory behaviour after Real Madrid's Vinicius Junior says that he was racially abused. Talks on ending the war in Ukraine come to a close, with both sides describing the negotiations as difficult. Facebook co-founder Mark Zuckerberg is to take the stand in a landmark trial into whether social media is harmful to children. Hello and welcome to the programme. I'm Martine Croxall. At least 3 police forces in England have told BBC News that they're assessing information in the Epstein files about private flights in and out of UK airports. In the last half an hour, West Midlands Police have said that they've joined officers in Bedfordshire and Essex examining flights through Birmingham, Luton and Stansted. Meanwhile, Surrey Police are already looking at allegations of human trafficking and sexual assault from the 1990s linked to the files and urging anyone with information to come forward. Last year, a BBC investigation found 87 flights linked to the convicted paedophile had arrived at or departed from UK airports between the early 1990s and 2018. Our correspondent Daniel Sanford has more details on what Surrey Police have said.
This relates to some really lurid allegations which emerged in the Epstein files in December relating to both Ghislaine Maxwell and also allegations involving Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. At the time, Surrey Police said that they were assessing those allegations, trying to sort of work out where they stood in relation to those, and then things have gone quite quiet since then. But today they've said that looking through their files, they can't find any suggestion that anyone had made any reports to them linking to those allegations, and they're appealing to members of the public to come forward. It looks to me as if they're just doing a sort of a double check, really, whether anyone else can substantiate those allegations before they kind of close the case, because it doesn't look as if like something that's going to advance very far.
Daniel Sanford. So 3 police forces now reviewing private flights in and out of airports in the UK. Daniel Sanford has more on that.
2 police forces, Essex Police and Bedfordshire Police, saying that they are now assessing details about flights that have come through Luton Airport and Stansted Airport linked to Jeffrey Epstein. It's essentially private flights of Jeffrey Epstein's private jets, and the suggestions in the Epstein files that women might have been on those flights being trafficked for sex purposes. Now, obviously Jeffrey Epstein is dead, but are there other people linked to those flights who could potentially be investigated? And that's what's going on there. And then you've obviously still got the 2 kind of really headline grabbing bits of police work going on. Thames Valley Police assessing whether or not to launch an investigation into the King's brother, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, on a couple of different kinds of allegations. One's to do with misconduct in public office, to do with potentially giving documents to Jeffrey Epstein, and the others to do with sexual allegations. And then the Metropolitan Police, the most advanced police investigation, which has actually reached the point of a full investigation into Lord Mandelson, the British Cabinet Minister in the noughties, who was the business secretary under Gordon Brown, and whether he was sending essentially important confidential government information to Jeffrey Epstein while he was serving in Gordon Brown's government.
European football's governing body, UEFA, has launched an investigation after the Real Madrid forward Vinicius Junior claimed that he was racially abused in Tuesday night's Champions League match against the Portuguese side Benfica. UEFA said it had tasked an ethics and disciplinary inspector with investigating the game. The match was paused for 10 minutes after Vinicius Junior accused Benfica's midfielder Gianluca Prestiani of making a racist comment to him. Prestiani said that after the game, Vinicius had misinterpreted what he thought he heard and added that he's never been racist towards anyone. Let's speak to Sanjay Bandari, chair of the Kick It Out organisation. Sanjay, welcome. What's the first thing that should happen when an incident like this occurs?
Good afternoon. The first thing that should happen is that we should think about the victim and listen to the victim and ensure that the victim is heard and feels supported. And obviously, to a degree, that's what you have with the three-step protocol. The referee takes the victim's complaint, stops the match, goes in effect, gets evidence from other players and people around, and then makes a decision as to what to do next. And so, yeah, that is the first thing we should be thinking about, is that person. And it was great to see the Real Madrid players like Trent Alexander-Arnold and Kylian Mbappe and others supporting their teammate.
What issue do you have with how it played out, though, in this instance? Because Jose Mourinho, the Benfica boss, has made some comments saying, oh, a stadium where Vinicius plays or something always happens, casting doubt on whether he really heard what he says he heard.
Look, I suppose there are two things here. There's what's going to be the outcome of the case? Did he hear what he said he heard? Well, look, this is not the first time there's any kind of case where it may come down to what one person believes they heard and what another person believes they said, and it will be a matter for the UEFA Disciplinary Committee to take a look at that evidence, including, what were the precise words that Bastiani says that he said, and how could they possibly have been misheard in the way in which they were alleged to have, and look at the circumstances around that. So if he really was saying something innocent, why did he cover his mouth up while he was saying it? That's not the act of an innocent person. I think what followed after the match really was, we've described it, and I continue to feel this, described it as gaslighting by Jose Mourinho and by Benfica, because first, referring back to a legend of the Benfica Football Club and saying Benfica can't be racist, this player can't be racist because one of our legends is a black player. Well, look, that's like saying some of my best friends are black. It's kind of the oldest trick in the book. But worse is Jose Mourinho saying that somehow Vinicius provoked this by the nature of his celebration, and that is a sort of cause of the racism that he says that he experienced. Now, it's incumbent on the leaders in the game to be responsible and professional, and I just think that Mourinho's made a massive misstep. Benfica have made a massive misstep, and it actually adds insult to injury, because it's not just anyone accusing Vinny Jr. of being provocative. It is Jose Mourinho. Jose Mourinho is one of the most provocative figures in world football. This is someone who did a knee slide at Old Trafford when he was at Porto. There's no difference between his knee slide at Old Trafford and Vinny Jr.'s celebration last night. But Mourinho's also the kind of person he is the person who, when he was manager of Real Madrid, and the now deceased Tito Vilanova was the manager of Barcelona, he would constantly refer to him as Pito, which is a derogatory Spanish slang word.
Sanjay,
and he poked Vilanova in the eye during an El Clasico. This is a very, very deeply provocative person. So he's a double standard to expect a player to adhere to standards to which he himself does not adhere.
I mean, if someone is found guilty, there's a 10-match ban minimum waiting for them under the rules. But just briefly and finally, do you despair of where football's at? We seem to have been talking about this for as long as I can remember, racism in football, despite all the initiatives.
Yeah, well, look, human beings are human beings, and what we have at the moment is a society where people feel emboldened to say things, and so we can live in a society where society feels better than it did 40 years ago. That's true, but it feels worse than it did 10 years ago, and that's also true. And people feel emboldened to express racist opinions.
Sanjay Bandari, Chair of Kick It Out, thank you very much for talking to us here on BBC News. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you.
We've been reporting that police forces are looking at records of flights coming in and out of three airports, Luton, Birmingham and Stansted, connected to the Epstein files. Well, the National Police Chiefs Council have said that they're now making sure that police forces in England and Wales who are assessing information from these files are getting specialist report. They say the sharing of documents related to overseas criminal investigations between law enforcement agencies in different countries is an extremely complex process, not straightforward at all. That's why they're offering this specialist support to forces who might be seeking information from overseas law enforcement agencies. This support helps forces to understand any potential impact arising from the millions of documents that have been made public. They say it may take some time because of the sheer volume of material that they're dealing with and the complexity of different international jurisdictions, but they're taking the matter very seriously. That from the National Police Chiefs Council. A second day of US-mediated peace talks between Russia and Ukraine have broken up after 2 hours, with both sides saying negotiations were difficult, but that more talks had been agreed. The talks took place in Geneva. Ukraine's chief negotiator said there had been progress and a number of issues had been clarified. President Zelensky said the fate of occupied territory in eastern Ukraine and the future of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant were the sensitive issues on which there was no agreement. Hopes of a breakthrough remain low, with Moscow continuing to demand Ukraine hand over key territory. Let's speak to our correspondent James Waterhouse, who's been following those talks in Geneva. Let's deal with the easy bit, James. What did see progress today?
Well, I mean, one source on the Ukrainian side said that there was some agreement on how a ceasefire might be implemented. So a sort of military blueprint around a frozen front line potentially, how it would be monitored. And they claimed that America would be part of that monitoring. And they claimed that the talks were productive. Difficult, yes, but there was a willingness to try and thrash a few issues out, they claimed. And we have seen official talks. We've seen the delegations sit opposite each other with their respective flags and the Americans sitting in the middle. But we've also seen, at a very senior level, ministers from the Russian and Ukrainian side talking in the corridors. What might they be discussing? It's very hard to imagine, off the back of such a long and costly war waged by Russia against its smaller neighbour. But that is where the obvious agreement seems to stop. I mean, I don't think Ukrainians especially were expecting a breakthrough today, nor would they be closely following events. Clearly, the sensitive issue about not just what Russia gets to do with the land it's taken, but the question or demand of Ukraine handing over more territory isn't going away either, and also who gets to control Europe's biggest nuclear power plant in Zaporizhzhia, which is occupied by Russia. And it's very difficult on those questions to see how Ukraine can leverage Russia in relinquishing those territories without America. And I think that there's the interesting dynamic here. America thus far is not condemning Russia outwardly for its invasion, and it's certainly not using the stick to make it either relinquish territory or stop fighting. And the view in Kyiv is very much, if that doesn't change, then we're just going to see these talks inch along. We might have the odd prisoner of war exchange announced here or there, but ultimately there'll be no immediate progress.
James, for the moment, thank you very much. James Waterhouse in Geneva. Let's speak to Hannah Shelest. She's the Editor-in-Chief at Ukraine Analytica and Director of Security Programmes at Ukrainian Prism. Hannah, thank you very much for joining us. Ahead of these talks, the US envoy Steve Witkoff expressed optimism. What's happened to that?
Mr. Witkoff expressing his optimism after each round of the meetings. We also would like to be the same optimistic, but unfortunately, we don't have enough information to make us so. And even more, I would say that Ukrainians a little bit pessimistic when we saw that the head of the delegation to Geneva was Mr. Medinsky instead of that team that we saw just a week ago in the United Arab Emirates. Because this guy, it is the lower level, significant lower level of the representative, and the guy with very bad reputation as the fake historian, and we know him for the long lectures on the ancient history instead of the actual negotiations at the previous rounds. So optimism of the American delegation is good. Maybe it is driven by the military teams who managed to discuss the ceasefire parameters.
How is the United States then approaching these negotiations? Because they could come at it from a different perspective, which you could perhaps suggest to us.
As for now, we see that they are definitely pushing both sides, but unfortunately, they push Ukraine much more. All those public statements, a lot of the countries are asking, like, why Ukraine is allowing this, because we feel as we are guilty in this war, not the Russian Federation, who should be pushed. But at the same time, they are creating these conditions because they would like to set not a timely deadline like tomorrow, but something, these pressure conditions, where the countries would understand that they need to sit now, not to have talks about talks, but to have a talks about substance. It's very aggressive mediation position. It is so-called manipulation, not facilitation of the dialogue. But that's something what the American team also feel themselves more capable of doing. That's how they used to have their business negotiations. And they hope that if for the previous 3 years other type of the negotiations failed, why not to try this time?
Hannah Shelest, Editor-in-Chief at Ukraine Analytica, thank you very much for speaking to us. Let's go to Chicago now in the United States, where the family of the Reverend Jesse Jackson, who died on Tuesday at the age of 84, are holding a news conference.
With visits and messages, your thoughts and sincere prayers at home and in church, throughout his life, really, especially over the last 10 years of his courageous battle with progressive supranuclear palsy. The last 2 years, the degree's progression has been acute, and so have the care assignments. Thank you to my father's volunteer assistants and the daily health care providers at Lifestyle Options and others who helped him maintain his daily schedule. As the disease began to more severely compromise his speech and mobility, he required more. Thank you to the care team and administrators at Journey Care who helped us maintain his dignity and comfort over the last few months. To the healthcare administrators at Lifestyle Options who were caring and flexible enough to amend their schedules and amend my father's care schedule to ease the burden of the daily care schedule on my 81-year-old, forever dutiful mother, Mrs. Jacqueline L. Jackson. To the medical staff and administrators at Northwestern Memorial Hospital, Shirley Ryan, the emergency rooms, the security teams, on behalf of each of us, we thank you. We sincerely thank you. May God bless and keep you. May He offer grace for your holy healthcare work. Our father is a man who dedicated his life to public service, to gain, protect, and defend civil rights and human rights, to make our nation better, to make the world more just, our people better neighbors with each other. Born in Greenville, South Carolina in 1941 in the throes of Jim Crow, he quickly became maladjusted to injustice. He challenged those entrenched Southern systems of poverty and racial inequality, landing in jail at 17 years old, protesting for the right to use a public library. He won that battle. He kept winning these fights against injustice and inequality all of his life. Through college, continuing the work to lead students to segregate lunch counters in Greensboro, North Carolina, to helping secure voters' rights, leading marches across the Edmund Pettus Bridge at the second and third marches in March 1965. To his work in Chicago, his tireless efforts with ministers and businessmen, and Operation Breadbasket, Operation Push Excel, and on to his national work with the Rainbow Coalition, the Rainbow Push Coalition, and the Wall Street Project. On the field of life, his shoes were well worn. His uniform, dirty with the stripes of imperfection, as he did his best to live up to his Christian calling. Reverend Jackson would say, "It is my religion that makes me political, not my politics that makes me religious." And we, his family, and the many others touched by him, inspired by him, are left obligated to continue his work to make our nation a better place for all through the techniques and tools and policy goals and platforms that he championed and left us to use. And so now his soul is freed to be with our mighty ancestors. His remains left to be honored and remembered for his sacrifice. I offer you the words of my siblings, starting with Santita Jackson, followed by Jesse Jackson, followed by Jonathan Jackson, and then Jesse Jackson Jr. Thank you very kindly.
What a blessing it is to be here today.
My mind, Santita.
As Reverend Jackson, who we called leadership, we called Reverend, but he wouldn't listen to me when I'd call him Reverend. He demanded that I call him Daddy.
My mind.
Because he said, I am that. Black men take a real knock for not being involved fathers, although the CDC showed us that black men are the most involved fathers in America. More involved than white fathers, Hispanic fathers, and our father took fatherhood very seriously. He took that charge. It was his charge to keep. And so today we celebrate his life, although his body is absent from us. His spirit suffuses and infuses us, and it charges us to continue with the work. Indeed, he has run his race. Let me just say this. He is a seminarian. I've seen him referred to as Jesse Jackson, Jesse Jetstream. Remember Mike Royko? Yes. But you must remember that he was first a seminarian. He turned down an opportunity to be a law student at Duke University Law School. And he came here and became a seminarian. And Dr. King saw something special in him because he was organizing with Reverend James Bevel. And he said, I see something special in you. So a semester before he got his master's in divinity, which he ultimately finished, he went on to work for Dr. King. So he had a godly calling, but he had an assignment from Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, which he never wavered from throughout his life. There is no one who's been more faithful to the mission of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King than Reverend Jesse Louis Jackson Sr. And so it is today, while we have heavy hearts, we have buoyant spirits, because we do know where our Father is. We do know that he took one deep breath and leapt into the arms of Jesus, who carried him to the throne of God, to the grace. There is no more, yes, sir, boss. There is no more shaming. There is no more blaming. There is no one looking down on him anymore. There is no one who has, the criticisms don't matter now. Because now he is with God. I can see Dr. King welcoming him in and saying, son, I told you were going to do it. I can see Reverend Bevel. I can see Hosea Williams. I can see my mama Tibby, my great-grandmama Tibby. I can see Grandma Helen. I can see my grandmother Gertrude. I can see Noah Robinson, his father. I can see his stepfather, Charles Henry Jackson. I can see so many people. I can see Mabel. I can see Major. I can see the Moore family. I can see so many people who are saying, you kept that charge. You were faithful servant. Well done. May he rest in peace, but may his spirit live forever, and let us continue the work, everyone. That is what he would want us to do. Amen.
Amen.
Good morning. I come to you as the son of Reverend Jesse Jackson and the son of Jacqueline Jackson, and I'd like to give a very special thank you. We have an attitude of gratitude. This city has given us so much. This nation has given us so much. Indeed, the world. And my father poured all that he had, his full measure, into this country, into this city. So first of all, thank you, Chicago. This is where my father was planted. This is where he called home. For the millions of people that have given my father prayers, we are grateful. My father's lived a long life, and the words that he shared with me constantly in this latter part of his life is to remind people that he was a long-distance runner.
Jonathan.
He ran the full measure of the race, and now this mantle of standing up for freedom, standing up for dignity, standing up for those that have been marginalized, is now passed on, not to be inherited by a person, but to be taken over and taken up by another generation. It's a continuous fight as we see the rollbacks of our rights that he's fought so hard for are now being challenged. He will continue to fight. And in that spirit, I can hear the ancestors of old saying, before I'd be a slave, I would be buried in my grave and go on to be with my Lord. My father comes up from the Jim Crow South. In his lifetime, he was arrested trying to visit a public library. My father grew up in a part of the country where there were segregated water fountains and segregated graveyards. So let's not measure the man by where he ended, but think about where he had to start. And he's a transformative figure. And most of all, I come to you just simply as a son. I've had to try to fix my language in the last day. I caught myself yesterday saying my parents, and now I have to say my parent.
Mama, come on, boy. Come on.
So I thank God for 60 years of being able to have both parents. Thank God that he is now resting in the arms of a very beneficent and loving God. And I thank God for all of you that have prayed for my father and giving him a gracious and a long life. And I thank him for being a champion runner for justice.
Thank you. And my sister Ashley will address now.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Just want to say thank you so much for your prayers. It's been obviously a challenge, but I think we all feel the magnitude of this loss, but also the magnitude of a life well lived. And it's such an honor to be standing up here with my siblings and just thank all of you deeply from the bottom of our hearts for the love and support you've given our family at this time, and we share our love with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me begin by expressing our appreciation to everyone who's gathered today. I want to acknowledge the absence of my little sister, our little sister, Jackie Jackson, who would love to have been with us today, but she will be back in Chicago in the not too distant future. I'm particularly proud of my siblings who, under these circumstances, have risen to the occasion of sharing with everyone exactly who our father is. Over the next week and a half or so, you will learn a lot more about the intimate nature and relationship that we all have with one of the most extraordinary human beings who's ever lived. With that said, I think the task of the business of going forward is in small measure going to fall largely on Yusef and in small measure on me. Dad believed that funerals were not for the dearly departed. He believed funerals were for the living. He believed that they were great gathering meetings. And no two lives in human history will have the same number of people attending their funerals, or the same people will be at their funerals, because your friends ain't my friends ain't your friends. We don't know the same people. You don't know the same people that I know. Do not bring your politics out of respect to Reverend Jesse Jackson and the life that he lived to these homegoing services. Come respectful and come to say thank you. But these homegoing services are welcome to all, Democrat, Republican, liberal, and conservative, right wing, left wing, because his life is broad enough to cover the full spectrum of what it means to be an American. We only ask people to come and be respectful in the context of the extraordinary life that he lived. Dad would have wanted us to have a great meeting to discuss our differences, to find ways of moving forward and moving together. And if his life becomes a turning point in our national political discourse, amen. Amen. And so, Dad's homegoing services which are difficult for all of us to accept, are just that: a national and international gathering and meeting of people, and people, most importantly, from our community, who uplifted him and put him on a perch that allowed him to share a vision with the world and to share a vision with all people. And so the business, again, funerals are not for those of you who have an opinion. The people who are coming to pay their respects to Jesse Jackson ain't coming to your funeral. They're coming to his funeral because of the life that he lived, and because of the phone calls that he made, and because of the lives that he changed, and because of the people that he touched. And so when people say, I'm coming to speak or to be present and to pay my final respects to Jesse Jackson, we ask all to respect that, because that was the life that is Jesse Jackson. My brothers and sisters are due a level of congratulations for the caregiving that each of them have provided over the course of Dad's illness. Caregivers in the United States are an unrecognized commodity in the United States that are not covered by any health care program in this nation. Each of us in our own way have come to appreciate that the $550 billion to $625 billion a year that those of us who have to change our careers, change our lives because we simply don't want to turn our loved ones over to just any old body, is a factor in our nation's healthcare debate. And so I'm hoping that Congressman Jonathan Jackson will look at caregiving through his service in the Congress of the United States and find creative ways to do something about that. With that said, let me just conclude on this point.
Jonathan's over there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Look over there.
Yeah, any expansion of the Affordable Care Act will include vision, because I can't see the way I used to see him. Jonathan's over here. Jeez. My apologies. I'm particularly proud of the work that they did, the labor that they put in. I was there at 12:35 a.m. when Dad took his last breath. At 12:37, I said, Mom, Dad is not breathing. She didn't believe it. She said, go on back, tell him he'll go back to sleep. Tell him to wake up in a couple of hours. No, Dad's gone, Mom. Mom got up and began calling everyone and notifying the world. His last breath is not his last breath.
My mind.
Each of us in our own way, shape, and form. If you're a woman in journalism, in large measure, it was Jesse Jackson who helped knock down that door. I remember when Chicago only had Fahey Flynn, Joel Daley, Floyd Calvert, Walter Jacobson. Jesse Jackson helped challenge ABC, CBS, NBC, and the majors to expand the industry to include women and to include women of color. And when I think about some of the great national TV hosts and the fact that African Americans have been anchor persons, Jesse Jackson helped knock down those doors. When I think about black McDonald's owners and Burger King owners and black car dealerships and those who become Pepsi franchise owners and Coca-Cola owners, when I think about the expansion of the Voting Rights Act from 1965 to the present, and the 62 African Americans who presently serve in the Congress of the United States, and the half-dozen United States senators, some of whom just got there. It was Jesse Jackson who went to Reagan. It was Jesse Jackson who went to subsequent presidents and asked for the extension of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. And so we expect a grand meeting of people who are beneficiaries of the life and the work of Jesse Jackson. We expect it from the far right, and they are welcome if they come respectfully. And we expect it from the far left. Honor Mrs. Jesse Jackson. This is her request. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Please.
From the mic, Alex.
Thank you. We'll take questions starting now, and we will wrap it up when we're ready. If you have questions after that, Mary Datcher is the one you need to reach out to. Okay?
What are the plans?
I'm going to call on those. You can start.
Okay.
Yeah. Good morning.
What are the plans? You say that this gathering will be open to all. You say that this gathering will be open to all. What facility, what place, what city will hold all? And what is the timeline that you're thinking of when this gathering will be?
You got it. Thank you. I'm going to need some help on the details from Alex, but we intend to have a fulsome celebration celebrating the tremendous life of our father, Reverend Jesse L. Jackson Sr. We anticipate that services will begin in earnest next week. There will be a component of lying in state at the Rainbow Push Coalition headquarters, and then we will be at a church venue that's large enough to accommodate a lot of people, as many people as we can. But we think between the lying in state and the accommodation of services at the church, along with a final celebration at a Saturday morning forum at Rainbow Push Coalition, that should be adequate. We'll do our best to accommodate as many people as we can with seats. For those who don't have seats, you'll be invited to stand with me, because I'm sure I'll probably be standing somewhere. But we'll do our best to accommodate everyone.
There's a website, the JesseJacksonLegacy.com. Those details and will be posted probably by the end of the day. So please look out for those details.
Hi.
And Nicole.
Hi, good morning. Nicole Johnson, WBEZ. So much has been talked about how the Reverend was shaped by Chicago and the Reverend shaped Chicago. Can we talk more personally about the community that supported him growing up, especially when he was traveling a lot? How did the community lean in, institutions, people, even feeding, watching the children? What did that look like?
Well, thank you so much. We call our church home Fellowship Missionary Baptist Church. My father was a seminary student and had to get groceries. We stood in the Fellowship Missionary Baptist Church food pantry under the leadership of Reverend Clay Evans. They struck up a lifelong friendship. He called him his senior pastor. Reverend James Meeks has been a dear pastor and friend as well. And we've been graced, if you will, sustained by the church community. So many people have poured into, and so never forget that my father never held public office. He ran for public office, never elected, and it was been through the generosity of people that has sustained a civil rights organization. And it was modeled after the leadership of Reverend Martin Luther King, challenging both for having personal salvation and fighting for social salvation, moving the church beyond the stained glass windows out into the people, that the true mega church is in the body of people. It's not in the walls of a building. And so it was a transformative ministry, if you will, quite innovative. And we honor that tradition and all those ministers that have been the liberators. Some people would try to reduce it to call them liberals, but they were the liberators. When I see in the Congress, I was on the elevator the other day with the current governor of Virginia, Abigail Spanberger, former congresswoman, now a female governor from Virginia. And she says, I made Jesse Jackson buttons in 1988 when your father was running. When Vice President Kamala Harris says, in my Camry, I had a Jesse Jackson bumper sticker. We see the progress that women made that felt the empowerment. When my father challenged the Democratic platform in 1984 to put a woman on the ticket, and Geraldine Ferraro was able to make a breakthrough. And that's just on gender equality, but also on racial and economic. There's so many fronts, but on the personal front, we started in the food line here in Chicago, and the church.
Yes.
The church was there. And so when he leaves out on the slogan of, I am somebody, that's a call for your own self-dignity, understanding African American History Month, a community or culture been beaten down for so long, dismissed, and now trying to be erased again. It was telling people to affirm your dignity, stand up for yourself. And his final mantra on keep hope alive, to let people never feel darkness, to know that God is the light, and to keep striving for something more perfect, and that God, when you put your hand in his, that he will definitely see you through. So I hope I answered your question. Thank you.
We'll hear from Michelle.
Thank you. Michelle Rutherford at NBC5 News. Oftentimes when people transition, you don't get a warning. You don't get a time to say thank you. You don't get a time to say goodbye. Yusef, I heard you talk about how he was stubborn until the very end. We know there were months in and out of the hospital since November. He's a leader for this world, but this is your dad. What was it important for you as his children to let him know? What was the message you wanted to make sure to send to him in this time?
Yeah, thank you so much. You know, it's a painful question to ask. It's something that we've pondered a lot, and I'll try to be brief to allow more questions to be answered. But God gave my father some extra innings. His death did not come without warning to us, yet we're still painfully unprepared emotionally. My mother was wrong when she told me, Yusef, if you're not guilty, you won't feel kind of the emotional sadness that some people have when a loved one leaves. And I think I still feel that emotional sadness because I love my father so much. And he was, you know, he had a personal relationship with everybody he met. He was just that kind of fellow. I saw a lady on the news this morning who lost one of her relatives in the E2 fire. And she talked about how that night after the fire, he drove around with her looking for her sister from hospital to hospital, and he wouldn't leave until they found her sister. He was just that kind of guy. And so I think what we tried to do in the moments that we had with my father, one was to continue to extract the wisdom from him to make sure that we were prepared to continue the work going forward. And I will say, profoundly in his pain, he never talked about his pain. He never talked about his thirst, even after he wouldn't have a drink for 8 days. He never talked about his hunger after he wouldn't eat sometimes he wouldn't eat for 14 days. And he'd bounce back and he'd wake up talking about wanting to feed other people. And so what sustained his life in those last days was not his desire for more life, but his desire for more service. And so as I, in particular, take over the reins of the Rainbow Push Coalition, it is the patience to serve, the temperance to serve, the courage to serve, the making yourself one with Christ in understanding his mission to serve that he impelled upon us. And then I think for us, each of my siblings and my mother, we wanted to give him comfort, that it was going to be all right, that he has taught us enough to continue his work. And so with that, we thank him in so many ways. If I had 1,000 tongues, I couldn't thank him enough.
Yes, hi. If I could add this, we never expected to have our father past 39. Men in his line of work didn't make it past 39. Medgar, Malcolm, Dr. King. My prom night, he said, I'm so happy that I have this moment because Malcolm, Medgar, Martin didn't have this opportunity. So every opportunity that we had, and I think that all of my siblings can attest to this, we always said, I love you.
Yes, sir.
We did not go to bed angry. Well, we might go to bed angry, but we didn't carry grudges. He didn't like that. But if we could give you something as a takeaway, always tell the people that you love them.
Yes.
So when he was in his moment of need, he didn't need to hear that from us. He felt it. And we felt it from him because he never hesitated to tell us and show us that he loved us.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Hi. Evelyn Holmes from Channel 7. There's been a lot of conversation about the Reverend's legacy, and I'm not sure that could truly be articulated through words, considering the expanse of it. But what I'd like you to do is if you could talk a little bit about what concerns you have moving forward, the work that has been done. You've already kind of alluded to that. How do you fill that void? How do we keep moving forward with his vision and the vision for equity and inclusion?
Well, thank you so much. I had the opportunity to speak as the co-chair at the National Prayer Breakfast, and you bring up the question of how do we... and you bring up and I had to ask myself, what would my father want me to do? Someone asked me, how did I get that position to be the co-chair of the National Prayer Breakfast? And I said it was easy. Nobody wanted it. And And so diversity, equity, inclusion has been a major part of my father's work. These are the on rails, if you will, the guardrails to fight against racism and to bring about inclusion, to make this a better country. And so I started my remarks off in the Latin. I said, imago Dei, verbium Dei. Once you spell Dei in Latin, it's spelled D-E-I. So we've never retreated from the term DEI. 7 days after the president was sworn in on January 20th of 2025, my colleague Congressman Cleo Fields, who's a protege of my father, we started the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Caucus. So it is something that we're unashamed of. We look forward to the debates on the United States congressional floor. It's something we cannot retreat from. Off of the voting floor in the United States Capitol, women only got a restroom in 2011. Wow. The first woman to graduate from the Citadel graduated in 1999. We can't say we've made enough progress on race and equity and racial justice. We've seen the effects of the DOGE cuts. They targeted African American women disproportionately. When we see the retreat on these programs, they are harming our healthcare studies, our access to academia. It's wrong to tell the Northwestern University that they're going to be held hostage and have to pay for their pay a $75 million fund to retreat. So we're not backing up. Yeah. And we can do this in civil discourse. And so this is part of the work. And it's just not one man or one woman's work. Yeah. It's everybody that's felt challenged to speak up, speak out. We're against censorship of comedians. We're against the rollback of the racial and economic progress that we've made. We're going to have more time to talk to that. Yeah. I just want to focus on the responsibility of a son. I am so proud that it's our loss is heaven's gain. Yeah. And the legacy that my father leaves behind. And I want every child that's listening and watching this that Reverend Jesse Jackson didn't start in this house.
Come on here. Take your time, Jack. It's all right.
That he would tell you Jesse Jackson's his third name.
My mind now.
For the children that have to be adopted and stepfathers and lives have to be transformed. We come from that lineage. We've been in the food pantry, and that's our calling, that's our mission, and that's what we're going to fight for.
We'll take 2 more questions, and I will tell you, I have a lot of talent, and we have a lot of talent in this family, so you got to probably call on who you want to answer the question. So we'll take 2 questions more.
LaDonna Ray with WVON 1690. Our condolences to the family, and we want to know, your father started so many things and he finished many others, but there is a responsibility that we have as a community to continue with his legacy. And no matter what the government is trying to do with removing and rolling back and minimizing, we want to continue to uplift and elevate. Yes. How do you propose that we do that ongoing, not while it's hot, but ongoing for years and generations to come?
Mrs. Jackson will be making some requests of the governor and the mayor of the city of Chicago on the appropriate ways to remember the legacy of Jesse Jackson and the work that he's done for our city and for our state. I'll let Mrs. Jackson make those requests at the appropriate time.
My question is just about the youth that are... This is the wrong microphone. For the young people that are standing, watching you right now and are just learning maybe about your father's legacy, you talked a lot about the division that we are feeling in our country right now. How can they move forward and try to overcome that feeling of the divisiveness that we hear so much about and your father fought against?
Well, I think that Dad unmistakably was known for his discourse, and I think that we've spoke at nauseum about the fact that our generation, Gen Zers, Gen Alpha, millennials, have the responsibility to remain in discourse with one another, because if we're not in proximity to one another, we can't solve the nation's crises at this time. So I think I speak on behalf of Dad that we are urgently called to continue discourse and to remain in conversation, because our proximity is what's going to keep us moving forward in this time. He's always been proximal to all of you, proximal to all of us, and that's the work that our generation is required to do moving forward.
Let me associate myself with what Ashley had to say, but let me also be candid because I'm old enough to remember, along with Santita and Jonathan, all of it. The caricature that you've created as a media of who our father is not the reality of who we know him to be. So what's happening now on social media is a more accurate depiction of the work of Jesse Jackson, and it's happening and occurring without you. That's the truth. Because institutional media has historically controlled the narrative of who Jesse Jackson is. You've made him to be more controversial than he is, than he was.
Oh boy, come on.
You've made him less multinational than he is. You've tried to make him someone from a side of town and not universal. Today, the King of England has issued a statement about the life of Jesse Jackson and its importance. One newspaper is hung up on how many mayors he confronted. All of them were small by comparison to Jesse Jackson. He knew as they came and went that he was the constant. And our community could count on that. And so again, the caricature of who you think he was compared to the reality of the education campaign that is taking place independent of you is what's taking place. And as that figure begins to emerge in contemporary thinking, I'm confident that the people, my mother said it this way, history is going to be far kinder to Jesse Jackson than the life that he lived.
My. Last question.
Orly from National Public Radio. Losing a parent is so difficult no matter when it happens, so my condolences to you. And I think that family never asks people what they can do for them. So I want you all to say what Chicago and the nation can do for your father and what they can do for you as a family.
Oh, yes, we can share. Okay. That would be.
I thought you were calling me up.
No, honey. We're just. We're all together here. We would ask for your prayers because prayer changes things. We would ask that you keep your families together because strong families build strong communities, build a strong world. We would ask you that you just love somebody. One of the things that we have learned on this journey is just how much love there is in the world. We will walk through airports, walk down the street, and people will touch us, people we don't even know, and they just say, tell your father that we love him. Tell them that we're praying for them. And they are from every walk of life. Yes, you saw President Trump give a nice tweet about Reverend Jackson yesterday because Reverend had the genius of turning foes into friends. He said, you don't have enemies, we have opponents. But through it all, we must always speak to each other. We must keep the lines of communication open.
Yeah.
But that's not just something that you do in your politics. That's something that you do in your personal life. Believe me, we have a large family and we've got a lot of opinions.
Yes.
And sometimes we do not see eye to eye. But through it all, a lot of times.
Yeah.
But we love each other.
Yes.
The Bible commands you not to like each other, but to love each other. And our mother and father said, I've got these children. Everybody's not going to be right. But I'm not going to have discord under this roof. Now, what we're going to do, we're going to work it out, and we're going to get along. And if we can take that from here into the rest of the world, I think it will be a better place.
Thank you. Thank you very much for, I'm going to give a final thank you as we've taken our last question today. Alex Sims will be in charge of our media relations for the family group. I think Jesse and Jonathan and Santita each have their own media relations team with your congressional office and with your campaign office, Santita, I believe, with your radio show as well. But Alex will help to manage press relations for the group. If you'd like us individually or as a group, you can work with Alex Sent on that. I'll just offer a final thank you. We couldn't stand here strongly without the strength that you're displaying to us right now. I thank you for coming out to join us to celebrate the life of our father. I will tell you that strength and spirit is a two-way street. And so the stronger you are for us, the stronger we can be for you. I want to just offer one piece of an answer to a question that was intimated there. And I talk to my father about this all the time. His legacy will not be passed on through blood necessarily. He has trained us, and we will do the very best that we can. But men like Jesse Jackson and people like him, they pass their work through the Spirit. And you too can have the spirit of Reverend Jesse L. Jackson. So you ask us, what can Chicago do? What can the nation do? What can the world do for our family? And I offer you this. Learn the work and life of Reverend Jesse L. Jackson. Follow in the
Yusuf Jackson, one of the children of the Reverend Jesse Jackson, this US civil rights leader who's died at the age of 84. And Yusuf there alongside his siblings paying tribute to their father, their mother, and also thanking the health professionals who gave their father dignity at the end of his life. This is BBC News.
Hello there. It's a bit of a messy picture out there today. We've got a lot of cloud around. The southeasterly wind is strengthening. We're seeing some outbreaks of rain pushing in from the west and southwest, and the risk of some hill snow as well. Now, these weather fronts that have been sitting there for a while are making further progress into the UK, but also hitting the cold air, hence the risk of some snow over the hills. We've had some of that in Northern Ireland. It's turning back to rain, and it should turn drier here later in the night. A little bit wintry for a while in Scotland, perhaps most of the wet weather across England and Wales. Rain, hill snow moving away from Wales, so turning icy. Still some hill snow across parts of the Midlands and moving on to the Pennines as well. There may well be a touch of frost across parts of Scotland. It's probably not going to be as cold as it was last night. Heading into tomorrow then, we've got that rain and hill snow, the Midlands, Northern England, creeping a little bit further north, but tending to die out. Wales, the southwest, becoming drier and brighter. Maybe a little sunshine in Scotland, but some more rain coming back into Northern Ireland through the day. So quite cold out there for many. Typical temperatures 5-6 degrees, a little bit milder though towards the southwest, especially as it brightens up. But temperatures are going to rise towards the end of the week and into the weekend. The cold air is going to get pushed away, and instead we're going to find a southwesterly wind returning. Now that will of course bring with it a lot of cloud, and there may well be some rain at times, particularly in the west, but it is going to get milder temperatures this weekend, possibly as high as the mid-teens.
この81歳になってね、まだ原爆の影響がまだいつどこに何が出るか分かんないような心配をするような状況。これが原爆の恐ろしさだ。
What was going through my mind that Monday morning was of all of the places that could have been affected. Why specifically some hokey town in the middle of nowhere?
Without bringing new people into the game and inspiring the younger generations, the game won't continue.
We take in about 150,000 tonnes of waste per annum. There's a bit of out of sight, out of mind.
He'll join a 6 to 12 week program of rehabilitation designed to get people off drugs and into work.
Documentaries from around the world. Watch on BBC iPlayer.
This is what your kids are doing to wildlife.
I've been overheard talking about killing a pigeon.
There's a deadly weapon on the streets of our communities.
You've got what looks like a catapult.
You had a catapult.
The catapult.
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 And they shot me with a catapult.
The injuries inflicted are horrific.
They're causing tremendous suffering that is prolonged over days, sometimes weeks.
Catapult crime is unprecedented numbers. 7, 8, 9, 10 a week. That's how bad it's getting.
We've been talking to the communities who say they're in the middle of a catapult crime wave.
They simply don't care. The only thing they care about is killing things.
If I didn't see the catapult, I would have thought I got hit with a brick.
If you were struck by one of those in the head, that is potentially going to be lethal.
Watch on BBC iPlayer.
Live from London, this is BBC News. More fallout from the Epstein files. Police examine private flights in and out of multiple airports in the UK. UEFA opens an investigation into discriminatory behaviour after Real Madrid's Vinicius Junior says he was racially abused. Talks on ending the war in Ukraine come to a close, with both sides describing the negotiations as difficult. Facebook co-founder Mark Zuckerberg is to take the stand in a landmark trial into whether social media is harmful to children. Prince William opens up to the BBC about male mental health and his own way of coping.
Take a long time trying to understand my emotions and why I feel like I do. And I think that's a really important process to just do every now and again, to check in with yourself and work out why you're feeling like you do.
Hello, welcome. I'm Martine Croxall. At least 3 police forces in England have told BBC News that they're assessing information in the Epstein files about private flights in and out of UK airports. West Midlands Police have said they've joined officers in Bedfordshire and Essex, examining flights through Birmingham, Luton and Stansted. Meanwhile, Surrey Police are already looking at allegations of human trafficking and sexual assault from the 1990s linked to the files, and they're urging anyone with information to come forward. So let's take a closer look at what the police are doing and where. Well, it was Essex Police that first announced they were assessing information about private flights into and out of Stansted Airport following the publication of the Epstein files. Then Bedfordshire Police confirmed investigators were reviewing materials related to Luton Airport, although it wouldn't necessarily lead to a full investigation. And most recently, West Midlands